Ash's birthday party in Portland was supposed to be a quick weekend trip. Something easy. We drive down, show face, smile through small talk, and head home by Sunday afternoon. That's how Mia pitched it. "It'll be good for both of us," she said, her fingers brushing my arm in that light, practiced way she used when she wanted to push something through without friction. "You barely see the team anymore. Just come. It'll be fun." And to be honest, I didn't resist. I wanted to believe her. Things between us had been stiff lately, not angry, just distant. Conversations had become transactions. Texts were mostly logistics. I'd say something like, "Do we have anything planned Thursday?" And she'd reply with just "meeting" or "dinner with ally." Sometimes just the word. No greeting, no punctuation. Like we were coworkers sharing a calendar. Still, I thought maybe we were just tired. Work had been a grind for both of us. Long hours, delayed vacations, a couple of missed anniversaries thanks to last-minute deadlines. Nothing unique. Every couple hits those pockets. So I went. Ash hosted the party in a loft just east of downtown. High ceilings and exposed brick. A rental space dressed up to look spontaneous. There was a DJ in one corner and a whiskey-tasting table in another. Everything screamed laid-back effort, which, of course, meant it was carefully curated. Mia fit right in. She always did in these spaces. Graceful, sharp, able to float from group to group like she belonged to all of them. It used to make me proud. That night, it made me uneasy. First, it was small things. She didn't introduce me. Not once. I stood next to her while she chatted with 3 coworkers from her department. Laughing, touching arms, retelling inside jokes. But not once did she say, "This is my husband." I was just there, like a forgotten accessory. The first real shift happened when Nate showed up. He was one of the newer hires in her division, a UX designer who joined last fall. I'd heard the name a few times but hadn't met him in person until that night. He was tall, well-dressed, with the kind of easy confidence that comes from knowing you're the most interesting guy in the room, even if you're not the loudest. The way Mia lit up when she saw him, that wasn't nothing. She left my side before I could say anything and went to greet him. I watched as her hand slid to his shoulder, lingered, then dropped in slow motion. Her laugh changed, too, just slightly higher, more musical, like the way she used to laugh when we first started dating. They stood close, too close. His body leaned in while he spoke, and hers didn't pull away. She tucked her hair behind her ear, a move I'd seen 1,000 times, and looked up at him like she was waiting for something clever. I don't think she even knew I was still watching. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Eventually, she made her way back, holding 2 drinks, neither of which was for me. I asked, "Who was that?" just to gauge the reaction. Her answer was too quick. "Oh, Nate. From my team. You'd like him." That was it. No elaboration. No context. Like I was asking about the weather. The night went on, but something shifted in me. I started watching, not just looking. And when you start watching, you start seeing the little gaps, the moments where the truth peeks through the cracks. She disappeared for 20 minutes just after 10. Said she needed air, that the room was too warm. I waited by the bar, pretending not to time her. When she came back, her lipstick had been reapplied, darker this time, and the scent of her perfume was different. It wasn't her usual soft citrus. It was heavier, muskier, masculine. Not hers, not mine. I didn't say anything. She smiled like nothing was off and slid her hand into the crook of my elbow, but there was a stiffness in it. Like a stage cue she remembered a beat too late. She laughed at something someone nearby said, leaned into me, and whispered something that didn't even make sense, just a placeholder to look like we were close. Around 11:30, we made our way toward the dessert table. It was just the 2 of us for a minute, surrounded by cupcakes and half-empty cocktail glasses. She bent down to grab her clutch from the floor, and that's when I saw it. A hotel key card slipped out. It landed face up. I didn't move right away. It was one of those boutique hotels down by the river. I recognized the logo immediately. Sleek design. Expensive. Not the kind of place you book for one person. The card had a date printed on the sleeve. Today's date. I looked at her. She looked at me. For half a second, her eyes widened. Then, like flipping a switch, she smiled. "Oh my God," she said, bending quickly to snatch it up, laughing like she just dropped something embarrassing but harmless. "I'm such a mess tonight." Before I could ask anything, she reached for my tie and tugged me playfully toward the drinks table. Just as she did, I caught a flash of movement over her shoulder. Nate was adjusting his jacket, and there it was, a second key card, tucked neatly into his breast pocket. Same hotel, same sleeve, same date. Our eyes locked. He froze, just for a second, and Mia, ever the performer, didn't miss a beat. She laughed again, louder this time, pulling me into the spotlight of the group like we were the quirky couple everyone loved. "This guy," she said, motioning to me, "thinks I can't survive 5 minutes without knocking something over." The people around us laughed. It was a moment, a joke, a show. But I wasn't laughing. I was doing the math. Her sudden warmth, Nate's presence, the shift in perfume, the missing 20 minutes, the key cards, and still I stayed quiet. We drove back to the Airbnb in silence that night. She scrolled her phone, said something about needing to check a client email, and turned away toward the window. I just drove. But that image, the matching cards, stayed with me. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't accidental. It was premeditated. And the way she recovered, that was rehearsed. That was someone who had practiced hiding things. People always think the worst moment in betrayal is the confession. But I think it's that split second when you realize the person you're with is acting, truly acting, and they're so good at it the room claps along. That night at Ash's party wasn't the end. It wasn't even the breaking point. It was just the moment I stopped doubting my instincts. And when that happens, when you stop gaslighting yourself, there's no going back. After that night in Portland, I stopped making excuses. Not out loud. Not in my head. I didn't confront Mia. I didn't demand answers. I just started watching. Because once you see it, really see it, you can't unsee it. You can't unknow that gut feeling that had been sitting in the back of your mind, patiently waiting for you to stop lying to yourself. All the little moments that once felt like nothing suddenly start to glow with meaning, like invisible ink under a black light. And man, they were everywhere. Started with her phone. I used to joke that she was surgically attached to it, but now it was different. It was always face down, always locked, always on silent. She said it was for focus, that she was trying to be more present. But when I glanced at her smartwatch, one she never used for anything but time, I started noticing flashes of texts, names I didn't recognize, initials sometimes, notifications that vanished the second they appeared. She started wearing that watch even in the shower, said it helped her keep track of time. But she'd never done that before. Then came the Thursdays. Every Thursday for about 2 months, she had what she called late strategy meetings downtown. No big deal on its own. Mia worked in marketing, late nights happened. But it was always Thursday, always downtown, always ending, according to her, around 9 p.m. But when I checked our shared rideshare account, something we both used casually, I started seeing charges at 10:15, 10:27, even past 11 o'clock. The pickups were always from the same location, a coffee shop 2 blocks from that same boutique hotel. One night I asked casually, "How was the meeting?" She didn't even pause. "Exhausting. We're trying to revamp the whole Q4 campaign. It's chaos." But there was no campaign. I checked. Her agency didn't even have a Q4 client on file that matched those timelines. And yet, every Thursday, she came home with her hair freshly brushed, lips touched up, eyes a little too bright for someone claiming burnout. And then the perfume changed. She'd always been a citrus and linen type of person. Something light, clean. But slowly, barely noticeably, it changed. Darker, heavier. Something musky that stayed on her clothes long after she got home. I asked her about it once, just offhand. "Oh," she said, "Ally got me a new fragrance for my birthday. Figured I'd try something more grown up." That didn't track either. Ally was her best friend. I'd already seen the gift. It was a set of essential oils. Mia hadn't even mentioned a new perfume until that night. Still, I said nothing. I wasn't collecting evidence to win an argument. I was collecting clarity. There's a difference. And it wasn't just the changes, it was the disdain. That creeping irritation that hung between us like fog. Mia started throwing barbed little jokes during conversations, especially around other people. Comments like, "If I had to ask permission for everything, I'd go crazy." Or, "Control isn't the same as love, babe." Delivered with a laugh, sure. But they stuck. At a dinner party with friends, someone joked about the struggles of marriage. Mia raised her wine glass and said, "Sometimes I think marriage is just a contract people sign before they start slowly resenting each other." Everyone laughed. I did too on the outside, but I felt that one. And then there was the neighbor's camera. Our street had a few overzealous Ring doorbell owners. I never paid much attention, until one afternoon. Evan from next door texted me a *T. "Hey, think this is your car? Weird time to be home all." It was a still image, timestamped 11:53 p.m. on a Thursday. Sure enough, it was Mia's car. Parked outside our house when she had told me, very clearly, that she'd be staying late at work and crashing at Allies due to an early client call the next morning. I replied something vague, like, maybe she forgot something, and changed the subject. But that image burned itself into my head. The next week, it happened again. Same camera, same car, different Thursday, 12:17 a.m. Same lie. She'd started saying things like, "You don't need to wait up," or, "I'll be back super late. Might not even come in the room so I don't wake you." And at the time, I told myself it was considerate. Now, I saw it for what it was. A preloaded excuse. A script. Even her social media got strange. Mia used to be careful with what she posted, curated, polished. But lately, I'd catch glimpses of half-deleted stories. A wine glass in a dim bar. A dinner plate across from a man's silhouette. Once, I *Ted one right before it vanished. You couldn't see the guy's face, but you could see the cuff of a blazer. A little design detail I'd seen once before on Nate. Yeah. Him again. Back at the office, they weren't just colleagues anymore. She mentioned him more often. "Nate said this," or "Nate thinks the campaign needs more contrast." Always Nate. Always casually dropped in. But never in a way that made me think she expected questions. And maybe that was the real trick. She didn't act guilty. She didn't get defensive or flustered. She didn't slip up. She stayed calm, friendly, normal. And that's how I knew. Because when someone is really hiding something really deep in it, they don't flinch at your questions. They make you feel stupid for even asking. That's how they protect their illusion. Piece by piece, it all started to fit together. Not as a smoking G*N, but as a pattern. A slow, deliberate unraveling of the truth. There were no confrontations. No slammed doors. No screaming matches. Just quiet withdrawal. Careful distance. Less us. More I. I remember sitting on the edge of our bed one night, watching her scroll through her phone. The light from the screen casting shadows across her face. I wanted to ask, "Are you in love with him?" Not angrily. Not even accusatory. Just plainly. As if that might somehow bring me peace. But I didn't. Because I already knew the answer. You can feel it when someone's heart leaves the room, even if their body stays. And once that realization takes hold, every day becomes a slow drift toward a decision you're not sure you want to make, but can't avoid. I started sleeping in the guest room. Said it was because I was working late or because I snored. We both knew it wasn't true, but neither of us said anything. That silence became its own kind of truth. I stopped texting her during the day. Stopped waiting for the goodnight kiss that stopped coming. Stopped pretending to believe the stories that no longer held up to even the lightest scrutiny. And still, she kept smiling, kept laughing, kept playing the part of a wife who just happened to be busy, stressed, maybe a little misunderstood, but never unfaithful. But I wasn't looking for a confession anymore. I was waiting for confirmation, and it would come soon. Not through some dramatic reveal, not through a fight or a shouted accusation, but through something quiet, undeniable, simple, something that once seen couldn't be ignored. Because here's the thing no one tells you. The worst betrayals don't feel like explosions. They feel like slow leaks, silent, steady, until one day, you look around and realize everything you once built is underwater. And by then, it's already too late to save it. It happened on a Tuesday. Not a special Tuesday, not an anniversary or a date I'd remember for any reason. Just a regular weekday that started like all the rest, routine, predictable, unremarkable. And that's what makes it stick in my memory. The quiet days always do. The loud ones you brace for. The quiet ones slip under your skin. That morning, I left early for an inspection across town. My job takes me into half-finished buildings, dusty hallways, concrete echo chambers where no one talks louder than necessary. It's the kind of work that keeps your hands busy but leaves your head too open. I spent the day half focused on the checklist and half on the unease that had been building for weeks. It wasn't even panic anymore, just a constant, low hum, like a refrigerator in another room. You stop noticing it until it's gone. Around 6:45 that evening, I texted Mia, "On my way home. Want me to grab dinner?" No reply. I tried again 30 minutes later. Still nothing. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. Every window black. No car in the garage. No sound, no light. Just silence. I stood there for a minute before getting out, keys still in my hand, watching the reflection of my headlights on the front door. That's when the quiet changed, shifted from calm to wrong. Inside, her shoes weren't by the door. Her purse wasn't on the counter. The faint smell of her perfume, whatever that new one was, lingered, but it was fading, like it had been hours since she'd left. I checked the time. 8:52. Her calendar said, strategy meeting. The same phrase she'd used a dozen times now. I almost laughed. Strategy had become code for absence. I sat on the couch, pulled out my phone, and opened our shared location app. It was something we'd set up years ago, back when we were both traveling for work. It wasn't about control. It was convenience. Safety, she'd called it. Funny how safety tools become evidence later. Her dot hovered 2 blocks from that same boutique hotel, the one from Ash's birthday night. Same place, same coordinates. I zoomed in. The map didn't lie. At first, I thought maybe she'd left her phone somewhere. But I waited. 5 minutes. 10. The dot didn't move. Still there. My stomach dropped, not from shock, but from confirmation. Because deep down, I'd already accepted it. This was just the formality. The proof. The last box to check on a list I didn't want to believe existed. I sent a message. Simple. Where are you? The 3 dots appeared instantly. She was typing before I'd even set the phone down. Then her reply flashed on the screen. Not your business. Don't call me. I stared at it for a full minute. Read it once, twice, 3 times. The words didn't even sting at first, they just looked wrong. Like something misaligned. Like she'd typed them for someone else and hit send by mistake. But she hadn't. I typed back. Then don't come home. No ellipsis this time. No dots. Just stillness. Then, 10 minutes later, 20 missed calls in a row. Back to back. Frantic. Desperate. But not enough to undo it. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to discuss. I remember the exact feeling that settled in then. It wasn't heartbreak. It wasn't anger. It was clarity, the kind that feels almost clean. Like a fog lifting from a windshield after months of driving blind. At 10:31, I turned off my phone and walked through the house. I looked at everything like it was the last time I'd see it in this form. Her throw blanket on the couch. The stack of mail with her name still printed beside mine. The faint lipstick stain on a wine glass in the sink. I took it all in quietly, the way you memorize the scene of an accident before the paramedics arrive. And then I sat. I didn't pace, didn't cry, didn't shout. I just sat in the stillness of what had finally revealed itself. There's a moment right after the truth settles, when you realize the hardest part isn't the betrayal. It's the fact that now you have to act on it. You can't unknow what you know. You can't unsee what's right in front of you. By midnight, I turned my phone back on. There were voicemails, 5 of them. Her voice, shaking in each one. Please, it's not what you think. I can explain. Just call me, please. Where are you? And the last one, silence except for breathing. Then a whisper, I messed up. I didn't respond. I didn't need more words. Everything she could say would just orbit around the one thing she'd already shown me. The map, the hotel, the message, it was all the same sentence written in different fonts. Around 1 in the morning, I walked out to the backyard. The night air was cold, sharp. I looked up at our bedroom window, dark, empty, and thought about how long it had been since we'd both fallen asleep in there without tension. Maybe months, maybe longer. The distance had started quietly, the way most endings do, disguised as normal life. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the couch, waiting for morning, the blue light of my phone flickering every few minutes with another attempt from her. The pattern didn't change. 3 rings, hang up, silence, repeat. Sometimes I'd glance at the screen just to see her name, to remind myself this was real. When the first gray light crept through the blinds, I got up and made coffee. There's something strange about doing something so ordinary right after everything collapses. Like your body's still following the script even though the story's over. At 6:40 a.m., I finally saw her car pull into the driveway. She sat there for a long time, engine running, hands gripping the steering wheel. I watched through the kitchen window. She didn't move, didn't come to the door. When she finally did, I'd already made my decision. Not in a burst of anger, not in revenge, but in logic. Quiet, deliberate logic. The kind that replaces pain when you've run out of excuses to stay. She knocked once, then twice. Mia, I said through the door, my voice steady. Don't, just don't. There was a pause. I heard her take a shaky breath. Please, she said softly. Can we just talk? No, I said. Not anymore. I waited for shouting, for tears, for apologies rehearsed in the car mirror. But none came, only silence. After a few seconds, I heard her footsteps retreat, slow and uncertain, the sound fading into the dawn. And that was it. That was the moment it became real. Not when she lied, not when I saw the map, not even when she messaged me those 7 careless words. It became real when I didn't open the door. Because that's what proof does. It changes you from someone asking questions into someone making decisions. That morning, the world didn't explode. There was no movie scene meltdown, no dramatic confrontation in the rain. The sun came up like it always does. The city moved. Cars passed by. And inside our house, the air felt still for the first time in months. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew what wouldn't. No more waiting. No more hoping. No more pretending not to see. I had the proof. And that meant one thing only. The next step would be clean, quiet, final. There's a kind of stillness that comes after the final line is crossed. Not grief, not rage, just this sobering quiet that settles into everything. Like dust in a room no one walks through anymore. That's where I was the morning after Mia came home to find the door locked. I didn't sleep. I made coffee, ate nothing, sat in silence. It wasn't dramatic, just hollow. The house didn't feel like mine yet, but it no longer felt like ours either. At 7:04 a.m., I made the first call. The locksmith. The guy was fast. Said he had an opening in his schedule and could be over within the hour. When he arrived, I met him at the door with a polite nod and stepped aside while he worked. No explanation needed. He didn't ask. I think he could tell. There's a certain look people wear when they're doing this, when they're making the break clean. By 8:30, the locks were changed. New keys in my pocket. The old ones dropped into a plastic sandwich bag I sealed and labeled in thick Sharpie. Do not use. Then I started packing. I didn't throw things. I didn't toss clothes into trash bags or tear through drawers. I packed everything carefully, methodically, one category at a time. Work clothes, weekend clothes, shoes, jewelry, toiletries, skincare stuff I'd seen her use every night for the past 4 years. I lined them up in neat rows inside her largest suitcase. Every item was a memory, some sharp, some faded. But I didn't dwell. I folded, zipped, stacked. 2 suitcases by the door. A third one for the things I knew she'd come looking for. Paperwork, old receipts, laptop chargers. A few framed photos I knew still mattered to her even if I didn't anymore. Everything else, books, extras, seasonal stuff, got placed into labeled bins in the garage. I took pictures of each one and made a list, printed it, taped it to the inside of the garage door. By noon it was done. I sat down at the kitchen table and wrote a short note. No emotion, no last words, just logistics. It read, Mia, your essentials are inside. Everything else is in labeled bins in the garage. I'll be unavailable for discussion. If you need access for retrieval, message me one time. I'll confirm a window. Do not use your old keys. J. I folded the note and taped it to the handle of the larger suitcase. Then I stepped back and looked at the hallway. Quiet, orderly, ready. There was no anger in it, just the final shape of a decision already made. The last thing I did was reset all the passwords, bank accounts, utilities, shared apps. It was easier than I expected. Most things were already half separate. I closed the joint credit card, transferred the balances into a split ledger, and marked mine as final statement. I called my bank and opened a fresh account, rerouted my paycheck, and canceled her access to the shared budget app. Not out of cruelty, out of necessity. The numbers didn't lie. There had been withdrawals I couldn't trace, Uber rides at odd hours, charges at bars we'd never been to together, boutique charges I couldn't remember seeing anything from. None of that mattered anymore. I didn't want answers. I wanted distance. Around 12:47 p.m. I stood by the front window as her car pulled into the driveway. She sat for a long time again. This time her body language was different. Tighter, braced. She didn't touch her phone. Just stared out at the sidewalk like she was trying to psych herself into something. When she stepped out, I didn't move. She walked up to the porch and tried her old key. Once, twice. Then I saw the moment it hit her. The key didn't work. The locks were different. The welcome mat had been turned. The bagged keys weren't inside the mailbox where we used to hide spares. I watched her shoulders rise, then fall. She knocked. Not loud, just 3 short taps. I didn't answer. She tried again. James? She called softly. Silence. Another knock. Please. Still nothing. Finally, she saw the suitcases. She stepped over, picked up the note, and read it slowly. I watched her eyes scan it once. Then again. Her hands started to tremble, just a little. Not from cold. From recognition. She didn't shout. Didn't cry. She just stood there with the paper in her hands. Like a woman reading the final lines of a chapter she didn't want to end. And I stayed behind the curtain, watching with a heart that felt steady for the first time in weeks. After a few minutes, she turned, wheeled the bags to her car, and popped the trunk. She didn't look back. And I didn't go outside. It wasn't that I didn't want to. A part of me did, just to say something human. But I'd said all I needed to by doing what I did. We'd spent too long talking around things, pretending silence was progress. This time, the message was delivered without words. It's done. By 1:20 p.m., the car was gone. The house was quiet again. I made one more call to the storage unit I'd reserved earlier that week. Just in case she left anything behind that she'd want later. They had a code access locker available. I rented it under her name and transferred the garage bins there the next day. Left a copy of the keycard in the mailbox with a sticky note that simply said, Access code is your birthday. Unit number 142. That was it. No big final confrontation. No tearful conversations in the kitchen. No begging. No shouting. Just a line drawn in action, calm, firm, immovable. Friends later asked me if I felt like I should have said my piece, if I regretted not giving her a chance to explain. But the truth is, she'd already explained everything, just not with her words, with her choices, with every Thursday night, every half-truth, every glance at a watch while she texted someone else. I didn't need closure. I needed peace. And that only comes when you stop asking someone to care enough to tell the truth. That night, I sat in the living room with the lights low and the windows open. The air felt different, lighter maybe. No sound of her pacing upstairs. No perfume seeping into the pillows. just the soft creak of the house settling into its new rhythm. I didn't toast to freedom. I didn't celebrate. I just breathed. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for an apology, an explanation, or a reason to stay. I had chosen to end it without spectacle, without venom, without giving her the stage one more time. And in that silence, I found something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. The next morning, I filed for divorce. No hesitation, no second-guessing. The paperwork was already half done from the night before. I'd stayed up clicking through forms, reading legal guides on what counted as fault in my state, confirming what I already knew. Infidelity still mattered. Not in every court, not in every way, but enough. My lawyer, Alan, was a quiet guy. Mid-40s, sharp suit, no small talk. I didn't want warmth. I wanted someone who wouldn't flinch. He read through my statement, nodded once, then said, "We'll start with clean division and proceed from there. Given the circumstances, I don't expect much pushback." That was the first moment I felt like someone was on my side. After the petition was submitted, I spent the next 2 days rerouting the rest of my life. Utilities? Transferred. Car insurance? Separated. Streaming services, phone plans, grocery accounts, the shared tax folder, split, renamed, locked. I changed the garage code, reprogrammed the smart thermostat, disconnected her email from our cloud calendar, and deleted the reminders we'd created together. Couples stuff. Anniversary notifications. One-off notes like, "Buy ice for Mia's team barbecue," or "Surprise trip next April." It all went. And with each deletion, I felt a little lighter. She tried contacting me again on Wednesday, then Thursday. The first few messages were calm. "Can we please talk? I know I messed up. You're shutting me out. That's not fair." Then the tone shifted. "You're being cruel. You didn't even let me explain. So that's it?" I didn't respond to any of it. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because there was nothing left to say that wouldn't reopen the wound. She had already explained herself. Her absence was the explanation. Her silence, on the nights she should have been beside me, was louder than any apology could be. When she showed up on Friday evening, unannounced, eyes puffy, wearing the same gray hoodie she used to steal from me, I didn't open the door. I stood behind the blinds and watched her ring the bell, once, then twice. She didn't knock, didn't shout. She just waited. Eventually, she slid an envelope under the door, handwritten on the front. "Please read this when you can. Just hear me." I didn't open it. I burned it in the sink that night. Slow, deliberate, no anger, just finality. Saturday morning, her father came for the rest of her things. He didn't say much, just nodded when I opened the garage and started handing him the bins. "I'm sorry about all this," he muttered once, not meeting my eyes. "She thought I wouldn't leave," I said back quietly. He paused, then nodded again, this time slower. The rest of the handoff was done in silence. After he left, I sat on the porch and stared at the empty driveway. No more traces, no more waiting, just me. And that's when the calls started. Not from Mia this time, it was the mutuals, friends, co-workers, that strange, in-between group of people who knew both of us but felt closer to neither. "Hey man, I heard what happened. You okay? You guys are really splitting? Just like that? Don't you think maybe you should at least hear her out?" They meant well. Most of them anyway. But it didn't take long before the advice started coming in wrapped in subtle judgment. Relationships are complicated. People make mistakes. Sometimes cheating's more about disconnect than betrayal. I listened. I nodded. I thanked them for checking in. And then I changed the subject. What they didn't get, what they couldn't get, was that this wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about punishment or trying to win some moral high ground. It was about peace. Peace doesn't come from forcing someone to stay. Peace comes from recognizing when love has stopped being safe. Some friends didn't like that answer. A few pulled back. You can always tell which people are rooting for the relationship instead of the person. Those are the ones who disappear when the couple becomes two separate names again. But I didn't care. Not this time. I set boundaries and kept them. Mia's last attempt came through her sister. A voicemail I wasn't supposed to hear, forwarded by accident, maybe, or maybe on purpose. I don't know. She says she's in therapy now, her sister said. She's doing the work. She realizes what she did. She's not asking for the marriage back. Just a conversation. Closure. Closure. That word again. Everyone wants it. Few people deserve it. To me, closure wasn't a conversation. It was a pattern interrupted. It was not letting someone back in just because they showed up crying and said they were sorry. It was learning to live without the apology that would have only served them anyway. The irony? Mia had already closed the door herself. She just didn't like that I locked it behind her. After that, things got quieter. I blocked her number, not as a spite move, but to stop the notifications that still pulled at my chest every time they lit up. I unfollowed her social media, archived our old photos, packed up the last of her books, and donated what she hadn't claimed. Her side of the closet became empty space. Her toothbrush, gone. Her laugh, absent from the echo of weekend mornings. And the house started to breathe again. I rearranged the living room, moved the couch, put up a shelf she always said was too cluttered, bought a plant, started cooking again. People talk about heartbreak like it's this one big thing, a moment, but for me it was just a series of tiny choices stacked on top of each other. Choosing not to respond, choosing not to chase, choosing to delete instead of reread. Each decision hurt in its own way, but they added up. They became something else. Freedom. I won't lie and say it was painless. There were nights I stared at the ceiling wondering if I'd been too cold, too final, too unwilling to listen. But every time that thought came, I remembered her message. Not your business. Don't call me. And I remembered how fast she shifted from ghosting me to begging to be heard. People who care don't switch lanes like that. They don't burn the bridge and then get mad there's no way back across. By the time our court date rolled around, we hadn't spoken in over a month. She showed up with a new lawyer, didn't make eye contact, wore a navy blue dress I'd never seen before. She looked like someone I used to know. The hearing was quick, civil, nothing contested. Her attorney asked if we wanted mediation. Mine answered for both of us, no, thank you. 30 minutes later, it was done. A decade-long relationship reduced to a file folder and a judge's nod. Outside the courthouse, she looked at me once, like she might say something. But I just gave her a polite nod and turned away. There was nothing cruel in it, just clarity. We weren't each other's story anymore, and that was okay. The house felt still, emptier, but easier to breathe in. I focused on small routines, early runs, weekend projects, dinners I cooked for myself, not for performance. Friends returned. Work improved. Dating became simple, honest, no pressure. It wasn't exciting, but it was peaceful. No waiting for lies, no decoding silences. Just space to exist as I was, not as someone else needed me to be. Mia moved on quickly, orbiting new circles with familiar habits. I heard things now and then, but they didn't land anymore. My peace wasn't revenge. It was absence. Of suspicion, of performance, of needing to